Hello everyone, and welcome to a guide on how to use the level editor that is a part of my new map that's recently been released called Tunnel Rats. If you're unaware of what this game is, a brief introduction is in order. It's a Bed Wars PvP game played entirely underground. As it says in our wonderful tutorial section, you and your opponents are separated by solid terrain encased in bedrock. You will need to mine your way through that terrain and find the other team and their bed. What you find along the way you can use to craft up and get geared for the battle with the other team. But you got to remember, the bed is the most important thing because once you lose it, you can't respawn. Because it's played entirely underground, you're going to end up with a network of tunnels. So you want to be able to navigate those and find your opponent's bed and destroy it and kill all their players to win the game. Now in the lobby, you can customize game rules and team colors and other features about the match you're going to play. But you can also design your own levels as well. And this, my friends, is where I think the magic of this game lies in its deeply customizable nature. Now, what we have in front of us is a preview of what I've called the base game. This is like my preferred layout for playing this. So if we zoom in, we can see the bed, which I believe is to scale with the size of the area in front of it, which is currently just a melon block. It's then preceded by bookshelves, hay bales, coal and iron, and further down the line we get resources like diamonds and eventually netherite. Now the preview is designed to show you what resources are available because the terrain in this particular layout is actually slightly different. When we look at the level editor back here, each slice that you just saw is represented by one column of blocks. And what I've done is deliberately put the resource you're looking for at the bottom here so you can see it in the preview. Otherwise, you might be looking at sand and stone and andesite and not knowing where you need to go to get your diamonds and iron. So the level editor is going to allow you to make this shape with all sorts of different blocks inside of it. And of course, here it would be mirrored, and then the same thing in reverse for the opposing team. If we flick to a different level like Arrowhead, this one is relatively similar, but it focuses on the players being able to pick up things related to arrows. So inside of the level editor, we can go ahead and change what level we're looking at. And you can see that in each of these slices here, we have some pots, and these actually hold items related to using arrows. If I control middle click these, I can then create a copy of them in my inventory that actually holds the contents. This is a little tip for using the editor because when you break these, the items inside of them will also be cleared. But if we go down here, you can see regular arrows can be discovered as well as tipped arrows with different effects on them. So the idea behind this level is that we're favoring the combat in the direction of bows and arrows over using swords. So hopefully now you can see how we're manipulating the layout using the level editor to create different experiences. The brewery, for example, revolves around brewing potions. And then we got low-tech infested, which is a very low-tech game. There's not a lot of tech tree climbing here. There's no diamonds, but there's a lot of infested stone and silverfish too. There is a whole bunch of different experiences available for you to try, as well as being able to create your own. So if you want to support the development of this game, the best way to do it is to get yourself a copy over on the marketplace. Right now, I'm in the Java edition, but the Bedrock edition also has a level editor too. There are a couple of slight limitations between the two, and I'll do my best to point those out when we get to it. So now that we understand level layouts, this one has the perfect name, No Jump. It's time to actually get into the level editor directly. So this panel here is kind of like the file manager of the levels. If ever you've used a file manager before, you know you can create a new file. So we're going to put this in here. Let's say level tutorial. All right, then we can confirm that, and we're creating one called level tutorial. But notice how the name here is yellow, and that's because it's not one of the base games. So we've added in our own one. We have the ability to delete it, to rename it. We can save it when we make changes over on the side here. We can also save it with a different name so we can preserve the original level. On the opposite side of the room, we have a mini tutorial and some special blocks have been highlighted. So we have changed the texture of wall. These are now special resource block items. If we venture out into the lobby, you can see all of these blocks out here, and it's really clear what they do. They give you a block that drops a carrot or a brewing ingredient. We got ender pearls and chorus fruit. There are possibly more things we could have included here, but these felt like the most prominent ones. So if you want to introduce any other types of items into the game, the way to do that is by using a container to hold those items. If you want to create air inside of the level, you can use a barrier, and then cauldrons are used to hold water or lava. So if you place a water or lava cauldron, they will get replaced into water or lava. Now up the top here it says use your creative inventory to place blocks. If you have not noticed, when we're going in and out of these areas, we are swapped into creative mode. If you're on a multiplayer server, only one player will be allowed in this space at a time. This is so that you can access all of the blocks inside of here to design your levels. So the creative menu is your interface for selecting blocks and putting them into the level designer. So here we have an image demonstrating length, height, and width, which you'll need to define the areas of your level. It's not so obvious in that image, but length is the distance from the starter room towards the end of the level layout. And we're going to see all of this in a moment, but when you put down a block, you get to define its size. It will tell you how many blocks there are in total. And when we put additional blocks above that base one, we are defining how much of that space we've just defined above will be replaced with this block. So typically levels are going to start with some form of wood, so you can make a crafting table, and then you can start to mine stone. This is the default size, so 11 blocks across, 11 blocks high, and 11 blocks wide. You can left click the numbers on this interface to change the values, right? And then you're also getting that calculation for the total amount of blocks that you're putting into this area. Now, one of the things we might also want in this first slice is a source of food. So if we go for the hay bale, that can be crafted into wood eventually. Now, its default is a 10% chance, and it gives you that calculation. So down here, we're making about 10,000 blocks, and 1,000 of those would be hay bales. And we can simply adjust the percentages to change the amount of blocks, right? There you go. Now it's only 36. So now we can come over here and just sort of adjust the percentages and get a rough idea of how many blocks in total will be this type. Okay, so we go ahead and add another slice. This is what's going to generate after this first one here. And it's a similar principle of the additional blocks being a percentage of the one you put here. Now, what we've already discussed is that I find it's better to actually do it this way around. So when players are looking at the preview, they understand that they're going to be finding iron here. And that means that we would then put a much higher number up the top here so that most of the blocks are stone instead of iron. And you can have more than one additional block here as well. You can have, well, as many as however many that is. Now, I don't actually know what happens if you go above 100% when doing this here. I'll have to double check with Plage. But yeah, keep track of that percentage. You don't want to go above 100 in total. By the way, massive shout out to Plage for doing such an incredible job on this level editor system. It is amazing, and I can't help but feel it'll be the lifeblood of this game. Now, as we're doing this, we're also generating a preview back here. There's the bed, then the wood, and then the iron. And if we go over here and just sort of reduce the size of these a fair bit, when we come back here, you can see this is all to scale. So you can get a better sense of, the player compared to the size of the bed going through the entirety of the level. Now, I believe that we have covered the basics. You can now assemble together a level and put all sorts of the different parts of the Minecraft tech tree inside of it. But here's a few other tips and tricks that I want to share with you. Containers are really, really powerful because they unlock all the different items in the game. You can put potions, for example, inside of those containers. So potions are a rather obvious one. As you get further into the level, you get different rewards when you discover these containers. We can have strength to boost the player's attack damage, then regeneration for healing yourself and teammates. And last of all, I've got an infestation potion here you could throw at your opponents and give them a headache. Now on the Bedrock edition of the game, you are kind of limited to the default potions. But here on the Java edition of the game, you could use something like MC Stacker to design commands for you that customize these potions. So down here, you can see I've selected potion contents, then a strength potion that actually has strength, because you can add multiple effects, I believe. But here we could say, we only want it to be strength level 1, but we also only want it to last for, let's say, 15 seconds, although that is actually set to ticks. But we want to make this a really custom and unique experience, so let's also add glowing, meaning that when you consume this and you have the strength effect, you could be glowing at the same time. Now, there are absolutely tons of these custom parameters. Not all of them are valid for this type of game. But with this give command, you can essentially give a player any type of item, and then we can put things like attribute modifiers onto it. There's just an endless amount of customizations here. So I think you get the point. We can really customize items on a deep level and then introduce them into our game. So here's a really basic idea. I've got some iron boots with 500% speed. So once I've got those on, I can move ridiculously fast. But perhaps I could also make me glow as well, and then I become a target for the other team. And then of course we can just put this in here, and then there'll be 133 of them available in the game. Yeah, we might wanna tone that down to a couple of blocks. And that reminds me, the size of each of these areas is set in stone. It's as it will say. But when you look here, it says about 133 blocks, and that's because all of your additional blocks are generated at random. And when they have been generated, they are then flipped, so the opposing team has the exact same layout in reverse. Now, there is one other really interesting block that I'm yet to play around with, and from here on out, I feel like there's going to be so many experiences that we can craft just with this game. And one of them that I'm looking forward to doing is using the monster spawner. Heading back to MC Stacker, this is a block that has a bunch of special properties. All of these are actually described here on the website. It's been a while since I've interacted with these, but essentially you can sort of set the range of how far mobs will spawn and how often, and then the types of mobs that can spawn from one of these, you can actually add in multiple different ones. And again, going hard on the customization, like you can make the mob drops from these mobs unique items too, so they don't have to have the default loot tables. So there is much more that I could go on about, but we would be diving deeper into the creative aspect of putting the elements of the game together. I hope what I've done with this video is actually shared everything you need to know about using this interface to create those levels. So now when you play Tunnel Rats with your friends, you can have fun with all of the default levels, and then you can create your own levels, your own experiences, and yeah, have endless fun, endless replayability with this part of the game. And so I'll say it again, if you want to support the development of Tunnel Rats, this is the way to do it. Go grab a copy on the marketplace. You can find a link to it in the description box, as well as the Java edition of Tunnel Rats. And if you've got any thoughts, any tips and tricks, leave them in the comments down below. I am really looking forward to getting your feedback on all of this. So thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you soon in another one. Bye-bye.